You're watching the Restoration Industry Book Review, a podcast that encourages roofers, flood and fire mitigation contractors to continually learn and grow to improve their businesses and lives. I'm Matt Danskin, a training consultant best known for teaching restoration contractors to consistently develop productive referral relationships with insurance agents. I'm sitting down with experts from across the industry to dive into the books that have helped them improve and make an impact on the restoration industry. What's going on, everybody? We are back at it again for episode 5 of the Restoration Industry Book Review. I've got two amazing guests on today. I've got author John Wood and TJ McCormick Jr. We're going to be going into actually one of John Wood's books that he co-wrote, I should say. Shouldn't give him all the credit. But this is Foundations of Sustainable Business, Theory, Function, and Strategy. And if you're thinking, oh my gosh, that is a intimidating book, you are right. John's a super smart guy. It's a complex topic. And this is the first book that we've reviewed so far that is actually a textbook. So this week was some heavy reading, but definitely worth it. So without further ado, I want to jump in and have John introduce himself first. John, tell the audience who you are if they don't know already.
Hi, my name is John Wood. I studied English and philosophy at TCU, and I earned my law degree from New York University School of Law. I passed the Texas and New York bar exams, and I'm a partner at Green, Klein & Wood trial law firm, and we sue insurance companies on behalf of policyholders. And I've written a couple books, co-written a couple books. One is the one that we're going to be talking about tonight on sustainable business or green business strategy. The other on artificial intelligence in business. But this one is the most relevant to those of you in the insurance restoration industry.
All right, awesome. I appreciate that intro. And TJ McCormick, we've known each other for at least a couple of years now. Yeah, and I'm glad to have you on for this topic specifically. I know you're very active in the industry as well as John, but anybody that doesn't know you that's watching this show, let them know who you are, kind of how you're relevant to the topic at hand today.
Sure. So I'm TJ McCormick. I live here in Denver, Colorado. I work for a global corporation called BriteStreet Energy Group now, and then also partnered with Save Construction through my roofing channels, if you will. The way that I got brought into the renewable space is I've been doing roofing for a couple of years, and I was getting bored, and I wanted to find something new to take on. And I saw a big interest in renewable energy and renewable energy sales, and I went to a couple different solar companies, and ended up going ahead and working together with BriteStreet. I found a niche in the past several months of how to get commercial roofs bought by utilizing renewable energy. And I'd love to talk with people more about that outside of this book review.
Perfect. Yeah. And to that point, I want to jump straight into the point of this book, which is not, if I know a lot of people in the roofing and construction industry are not what you would call tree huggers. They're not the guys, wearing a hemp necklace and Birkenstocks. And that's not necessarily what this book is either. This book is, yes, looking at the realities of the change in our climate, but looking at what do we need to do as business people to react to that? How are we going to best fit our needs and wants with, I guess, the world's needs and wants. So, John, take us in real briefly, or take as much time as you need, actually. But take us into what this book has to offer for the restoration contractor in how they're looking ahead at the landscape and what they can do to capitalize on the situation that we're faced with.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. I think the first point is that the book is premised on the fact that climate change is a growing concern, and we can see it in the data that we're facing an extraordinary uptick in the frequency and the severity of extreme weather events, which means we're going to see colder colds, hotter hots, more ferocious hurricanes, bigger hailstones, more tornadoes spawned in your given storm. And these are all casualty events. And so what that means is that we are in the growth industry. The property casualty and loss industry is absolutely growing because climate change is a mega trend that's going to form the background for all of the other social, environmental, and economic trends that we see. And so it's really taking that as a premise, it's good news for our industry. It means that we're in a growth industry. And really the point of the book is the so-called triple bottom line. Really, this is a business strategy book. How do you promote your own profitability without creating tragic trade-offs, like you're polluting and that's where your money comes from, or you're making people sick but you're profiting off of that? But no, rather, how can you make profit while promoting public health, promoting environmental integrity or conservation, in general, addressing the needs of stakeholders, not just your investors or your shareholders? So how do you open the aperture a little bit in terms of who are your real customers, and do that in a profitable way? So we make a business case, a thoroughgoing business case for taking social and environmental responsibility, not just trying to make money, but trying to make the world better, and that you can actually create more profit longer term with lower risk, lower employee turnover, greater customer loyalty, and so forth, by actually being more responsible instead of more greedy. So by following the strategy in our book, you can actually get paid to do the right thing, and the good guys can finish first. And I think that's a new era. It's a new orientation towards business strategy.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that angle that you're putting on it, really to go after this topic, because I get frustrated sometimes when people are, chicken little, the sky is falling, type of attitude about this, when really, no one of us is going to solve the issues that we're faced with. Just like we're not going to stop the hurricane that's coming, but we can go do our part to rebuild from the hurricane. We are, TJ, I want to kick over to you on this next topic, because you guys are doing something that I think is really unique, and not to make this just a commercial for what you're doing, but I think it's really, it embodies what this book is talking about. But tell me, there's a bunch of companies out there that do solar. Talk a little bit about what you guys are doing uniquely here, to take advantage of this in the market, so that you have something not only that's sustainable for the planet, but it's a sustainable business model.
Sure. Thanks for that. One of the things that we deal with every day in commercial businesses is costs, right? We talk about having to have costs for maintenance programs. We have to have costs for janitor programs. We have to have numerous different things that commercial businesses pay for. One of those things that we see is one of the biggest costs is energy or electricity in commercial businesses. You'd be surprised how many companies are paying over $1 million a month in just electricity costs. BriteStreet Energy introduced a new product to the market by not just going all the way renewable in the very beginning. We came out with a new motor, natural gas motor and generator that powers a battery, which still utilizes coal, if you will, or natural gas to run the motor, but it's able to kill a demand in a commercial building, where solar has never been able to actually take care of that demand for a commercial building.
And I want to say too, Matt, that I
Yeah.
think that what BriteStreet is doing is a great example of a sustainable business model where they're making money by solving the problem that all these businesses face, which is a very high utility bill. And they're solving it in a way that isn't necessarily 100% pure, no footprint, but it's substantially more energy efficient than existing technologies and a substantially lower environmental footprint over the life cycle of this energy source. And I don't want perfect to be the enemy of the good here. If everyone took an incremental step in the right direction, it would be a massive leap forward for humanity. And so technologies like what BriteStreet is offering are really promising to me because they're commercially competitive, and like I said, they meet this triple bottom line.
Right.
So let me tell you quick about, so California last week, their governor, Gavin Newsom, reopened 4 natural gas plants because they realized that they weren't able to turn them all the way off yet, because they wanted to go completely green. They wanted to get rid of coal and carbon emissions, and they wanted to do it now. But they realized that they weren't able to. And one of our biggest states in the whole world is California in terms of sales right now.
Right. Yeah. And I think this kind of brings up an important point. You've got these businesses that have to look at their bottom line. Number one, they're going to lose their job if they're not profitable. And so in the past, I think there were a lot of solutions that were trying to do this that just didn't make business sense. It was going to cost you more money to try to save the earth. Now, because of technology advancing, because of all these economies of scale and things like that, we actually have something that is allowing them to spend less money and benefit the globe, their communities, everything. And so I think that's really cool. I like that. And like you said, don't let the perfect be the enemy of good, right? Hopefully I didn't botch that.
No, that's right.
I think that's a great point to make here. I know most of my audience is in the roofing and restoration industry, and so I don't want to neglect their specific concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the books that we've looked at have been more broad in terms of personal development or adjusting claims and stuff like that. But I think this can be really relevant. I know, TJ, you and I have talked personally about some of the things that you guys are doing, where you're taking these renewable energy sources, you're financing it, you're lumping in a roof that maybe can't be bought by insurance, so that they can finance the roof and the solar or the energy solution. And that's been a huge advantage for those business owners that maybe can't afford to pay for everything all at once. They don't want to take on a loan on its own. So tell me, just speak on that real briefly, if you could.
So BriteStreet Energy has worked together with a number of equity companies or equity firms, either financial based or 501(c)(3) based, or we utilize a special government program that utilizes a special tax assessment on a business. When I was thinking about ways that I could be different or BriteStreet could be different when we're going after commercial businesses, what's one of the biggest things that we talk about every day on Storm Ventures Group or Level the Playing Field, not to just mention those two just in general, but we talk about denials or what the insurance company is doing by not paying for the roof that deserves to be bought. And then I started thinking about all the roofs that aren't in storm locations currently that have been sitting on top of their roof or on top of their building for 25, 30, 40 years. And there's some of the most inefficient buildings in the world that are just leaking energy. And it's not helping our environment. So when I got into renewables, I said, I know what to do. I know where to go. I'm going to go talk to Matt Behrens real quick, right? Matt, I want to go after all your denials. But and then that's what I did. And I went after and I talked to people who are in this industry every day, fighting the good fight, looking to help people who have a roof that may not qualify for an insurance claim or is denied because, the biggest source of losing electricity and energy and air conditioning and everything is the roof. So
let me jump in there because I think one of the reasons why TJ's company can address the market the way they do is because they're creating value as opposed to capturing rent or just capturing profits where they're just diminishing the amount of wealth that's in the world. And a lot of companies do that. They're just taking wealth from people and getting away with it without creating a commensurate value to their society. Whereas what you do when you come up with a clean tech and energy generation from wind is you're basically creating a highly valuable commodity out of a free substance, which is wind power. Yeah. And so you're creating, it's almost like a fountain of youth in a way. You're just creating a fountain of value that you can then direct in a number of ways, including, bringing in a modern roof up to a modern building code is much more energy efficient. And this ties in again to, and I was going to say, I think that this book is highly relevant to the restoration contractors because the opportunity to bring solar into a roofing project or to replace the solar that's there with something newer, or with even more powerful energy development, energy generating technology, that's huge. Also, vegetative roofing systems are a huge value add, and they're aesthetically pleasing. And I guarantee you that a bed of dirt with local flowers on it is going to withstand the hail impact more than a TPO roof. And you get all sorts of tax incentives from doing that. And so what I found is in my insurance litigation work, a number of insurance policies offered by major carriers, and including Allianz and Zurich and Travelers, especially in the larger, the business owners policies or the commercial and industrial policies, but also in some of the residential policies are paying for green upgrade coverage. This goes beyond code upgrade. So when you sustain a covered peril and you have to replace your roof or you're ripping damaged building material out, they will pay in some cases to recycle that instead of take the debris to a landfill. They will pay in some cases to replace broken appliances with Energy Star certified appliances. They'll pay to put solar panels on, or if you have a total loss to a structure, they'll pay to get it certified and then built back to LEED certified standards, which goes beyond the applicable building code. And now not all policies offer this, but it's more money. These deals that have green coverage are worth more. And so it's an opportunity to upsell if you're a roofer, to partner with a solar provider or partner with a company like TJ's that can bring in energy production, especially on your larger jobs, your flat roof jobs, where your owners have a much more sophisticated financial position, and they can see the ROI from something like that. But it's an opportunity to really distinguish yourself as a roofing company if you have an alliance of other vendors that you can bring in to do that, to put in a green roof, to put on wind power on the roof and so forth. And sometimes insurance will even pay for that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you bring up there. And I think one aspect of that contractors need to be looking at is you can't wait until that deal comes up where you go, oh, their policy has this. Let's go find these connections. Let's go figure this out. You have to plan ahead. You have to act ahead of the opportunity. That way you're ready when it happens. And so whether that, make those connections in that industry. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do this podcast, not only on this book, but just in general, was just to put information in front of contractors that they maybe normally wouldn't be exposed to. And different areas, different experts. And so, John, I know you just got through talking, but I want to ask you, you're a lawyer, a writer, a basketball dunking star, almost, with calves the size of hippos. But I want to ask you, if you were tomorrow, you woke up and you were a roofing contractor, what's your play? What do you do with all this information that's in your head? How are you going to apply that to the market as a roofing contractor or as a restoration contractor at large?
Matt, I'm glad you asked that, because this is kind of a wake-up call to all those roofers that are not referring me your claims. I may just start a roofing company and start competing with you. I'm just kidding. I love practicing law, and I don't compete with roofers or PAs. I think that the opportunity is vast. And my dad was a builder. Okay, not just a general contractor. He was the builder and the designer and the architect of homes for a long time. And he also did industrial and commercial projects. So I've always been fond of people that can create structures and dwellings, because that's such a fundamental human need. And that's the essence of a business. Although we live in a digital world now and people are working from home now, we might take for granted how important the structure is for where we convene, where we get things done. That's especially the case when you're building things or you're fabricating things. And also with the pandemic shutdown, these roofers realize they are essential. Okay, you're putting shelter over someone's head. If they've got a leak, that becomes an indoor air quality problem, and now this family has to vacate. So roofers are essential, and we should be proud of our contractors and what they do in this country, and keeping this country with the dry roof over their head. But if I were to get into roofing now, I would be doing industrial and commercial jobs. I'd be doing hyper efficient, like net zero energy consumption, passive heating and cooling. There's software where you can actually design, architects use this. You can lay out the structure according to its geographical position, so that you're optimizing the way the sun hits it. So you're getting as much energy as possible from that. So I would zero out my utility bills. It'd be LEED certified. And I would just specialize in those really premium builds. And I would focus in those jurisdictions where the building code is the most stringent, because all new construction in those areas has to comply with the latest code. And a lot of times they're requiring LEED certification on all new construction. So there's a growth opportunity there. And I just like to do things, I like to be the best, or to really deliver high quality. And I think to compete in residential or these mass plays where you're just doing high volumes, it's really hard to keep quality standards up. And I have a ton of respect for those that can scale while doing quality, but that's not my style. My style is to do less but better. And so if I were to get into roofing, that's probably what I would do.
I'd like to just say something real quick about that. One of the things that you said in your book, we use the term Baoli. I laughed at that. It was basically an ancient air conditioning and modern building design. And how many times have we been on a roofing system that has an ancient air conditioner?
It's funny that the Baoli, it's basically this in the basement of a structure, a pool of water. And then the structure has ventilation shafts so that the air can circulate through it. And that water is 10, 20 degrees cooler than the air surrounding it. And it creates a natural convection, and it creates air conditioning in these really hot, arid regions that otherwise can't afford it. So it's an example in the book of sort of ancient wisdom and just taking advantage of the natural dynamics of the earth to meet a basic human need in a way that's like low tech, but very sophisticated.
Right. Awesome.
Very good. Yeah, I see contractors all the time that are wanting to do everything. They want to do residential, commercial, big, small, cheap, expensive. Like, they want to do it all. And I think there is some wisdom in looking at the market as a whole and saying, you know what, this piece, that may be a small portion of the market that you're talking about, that commercial, industrial, high end, energy efficient, people that are worried about things, frankly, other than how much does this cost. They want the ROI out of it, not just the cheapest price right now. So I think there's some wisdom in going after that market, and that's going to be a growing market, as you said. All these things are, people trying to be more efficient and codes being more stringent is only going to grow. I don't expect it to go the other direction at all. I think that's really important to look at as people plan out what their business is going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now.
It's not a good idea to fight a mega trend. Okay.
No, it's not.
You got to ride that wave.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's, you look at the, they call them the robber barons or whatever. They didn't fight the trends. They said, okay, we're going to get involved in the railroad. The railroad was just what was happening. They didn't make it happen. That was happening one way or another. They jumped on board. They rode that. And obviously we know of the guys that were successful. We don't know of the guys that weren't.
Well, I don't want to be
you don't have to be a robber
baron, but when I was fresh out of law school, I was really ardently an environmentalist.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went up to Woodstock, New York, and worked with HBO and the Rockefeller family on some land conservation projects. I worked at the NRDC, which is an environmental nonprofit. That's the reason why we have unleaded gasoline. They sued Chevron and forced them to take the lead out of the gasoline that was killing people, giving everyone lead poisoning. So I was a real environmentalist, and it occurred to me then that the real way to make a difference was not to sue. It wasn't to punish polluters. It wasn't to regulate necessarily, because the government, we have a Clean Air Act and we still have dirty air. So that's what Congress gives you. And they can say, check the box, we solve that problem, and we still have the problem. And so it occurred to me that we needed to mobilize the private sector and to leverage the power of the profit motive to align the incentives to get people to really deliver sustainable goods and services and to get paid for doing so. And if they could, then private sector leadership could solve a lot of these problems, and we wouldn't need the UN to be telling us what to do. We wouldn't need a federal agency to be telling us that here's your permit to pollute. We would have solved these things by just the operation of the market dynamics. And I'm hoping that this book can educate enough. It's in MBAs right now. It's in the business administration master's programs. It's been translated into Greek because the Greek economy is looking for ways to stimulate their recovery. It's being used in Canada and in Europe. So I'm hoping that enough MBA students read this book and get exposed to the concepts of this book, and they take that with them into leadership positions in industry and start creating value with what they're doing there.
What do you,
TJ?
What would you think? How many buildings in the world? I mean, are you there? Hello?
Yeah.
John, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Matt's having a little issue there. What I was saying is how many buildings in the world do you think suffer from sick building syndrome?
I don't know a number, but it's way too many.
Right.
I mean, most buildings you go into, you can smell some kind of a must. They don't have good lighting. They don't have great ventilation. And you've got employees that are just sitting in a chair all day long, which is like smoking cigarettes all day in terms of the deleterious health consequences. So, I mean, there's so much low-hanging fruit there. If you can get your people to use standing desks and open a window and get some air and light in your building, it's going to really promote health. And if you take care of your employees, this is another sort of move that we make in the book. You take care of your employees, they're going to produce better. They're going to be more productive. They're going to perform better, and they're not going to leave because they hate you. They're going to stay. And so whenever you train them and you teach them a new skill, that becomes an investment that you're making into your own company. So you'd be surprised at the payoff from doing the right thing, from going beyond merely complying with the rules to actually leading in an ethical way, and taking care of your people more than you have to. And you're actually going to profit if you can do that.
Yeah, John, I don't know if you caught the episode last week. We talked about Daniel Pink's book Drive. and he gets into a lot of these concepts where, our motivations are deeper and wider than just, I want to make money and I want to make more of it. Those things are great, but we talked about, if you're a roofing company and the only thing you have to offer your employees is more money, then all it's going to take to steal your employees is a little bit more money.
Yeah.
Right.
People need
And so
purpose. They need meaning.
Right.
And if you pursue that, I mean, that's sort of a case in point. I've always put that first, and it's put me in the position where I am now, named partner of a law firm with hundreds of millions of dollars of cases in litigation, and I'm just starting. So if you chase purpose and create value, you're going to be rewarded. I believe that. I mean, you still have to be smart. You have to make good decisions. And what we're talking about here is not philanthropy. I'm not saying give away all of your stuff and then you're going to make money. No, I mean, you have to be savvy. But if you do it in a principled way and you put these other values at the forefront, you're going to make a whole lot more than just money.
As you said, the moral psychology of risky business decisions.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've talked a little bit about how this affects our industry here. John, I know you've written this book. You've written one other, correct?
Yeah, The Human Machine.
Okay. And that's a whole other topic. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, check that one out too. If you guys want to buy all of John's books. But John, I know you deal with contractors all the time. The good, the bad, the ugly. I know they're all clients of yours, so you have to say that they're all good. But tell me from your experience working with contractors, those contractors that are best in their market, that are really dominating. What are some of the things that you see about those people that are unique and set them apart from those others that aren't? I know this is a little bit off topic from the book, but I want to get your perspective on this.
I think the most successful contractors I worked with, and I've sort of looked under the hood because my firm is handling litigation that they were attached to. And so I get to see their work product, their correspondence, and how they present themselves. One is they're constantly educating themselves. They're always trying to stay up on the products that they're selling and on best practices and on tactics and strategies for how they can take care of their clients. Two, they have a tremendous level of responsibility, personal responsibility. Now, it doesn't mean that they're micromanaging everything, but it means that if something comes up, they jump on it, and they will accept responsibility for that internally. And I think and that's leadership, because that's also what the sort of the servant leader model is taking responsibility for your flock. And they will do that, and they train their team. And if somebody makes a mistake, they bring them in and they try and edify them. There's a phrase like, what if I train my employees and they leave? Well, what if you don't train them and they stay? So it's sort of another move to consider. And the last thing is they use systems. Okay, they don't have paper filing cabinets, everyone on their own device, kind of willy-nilly. They have systems, a CRM platform where they can maintain everything in an orderly manner. Here are all the pictures they have. Here's all the correspondence they have. Here's our contracts. And a part of that system, meaning they have formality in how they conduct their business. And oftentimes they'll also have legal counsel. That's not me. I'm an insurance litigator. That's a very niche role within the law. But as a contractor, you're running a company, you need business counsel to advise you on HR, wrongful termination issues, OSHA compliance, permit pulling, competition issues, contracting, reviewing your agreements, making sure they're all compliant, all of that. And that's all stuff that insurance litigators don't do. And so if you're calling me for that stuff, you're already behind. You should have your own legal counsel helping you become sophisticated. So I'd say knowledgeability, high levels of responsibility, and using systems and having that formality. That's what distinguishes the most successful roofers.
Awesome. And like I said, not necessarily on topic from your book, but I want to take advantage of the minds that we have here on the call. TJ, from you, I know you've been in the contractor world. You've dealt with a lot of contractors as well, but from a totally different angle, right? What do you see as the trend? What are contractors doing? Are you seeing contractors moving towards solar and renewable energy and all these things that you're getting involved with, or do you see them stagnating?
There's two parts to that question. So the very first part of that question, a year ago, I would have said that every contractor out there in the world that I've dealt with doesn't want anything to do with solar or renewable energy, right? But as I sit here today, after months and months of talking with roofers every day and business owners across the country, I'm seeing a shift. I think it's because people are talking about it more. A lot of people didn't want to believe that solar was the future. And quite frankly, I love solar, but I don't think solar is the future, right? I think that there's another way that we're going to grow in the renewable energy world one day, because like I said, solar can't attack the demand. It can help a home, but it can't help a commercial business. But with that being said, I've talked to two roofers today that I'm bringing in tomorrow. We're going to call their client that they have. I'm going to walk them through how to sell the project. And then I'm going to give them the commission on the job, just because at one point I was a new roofer, right? And I didn't know how to sell a roof. Somebody had to teach me how to do it. And I want to be a part of that transition, because over the next 10 years, if you're not in renewable energy, you're going to be at the bottom of the barrel. If you can't change your own solar panels out, if you don't know how to sell a solar system, or if you don't know about renewable energy, you're not going to be able to help your client.
Yeah, that's especially true in the large loss section. I think that trend is irreversible. New building codes are requiring it, and also just defraying utilities. And let me make a comment too about solar, because I also kind of dunk on solar sometimes. It's not that impressive, but partly because of the regulatory environment. For decades, the United States has incentivized deploying solar. Instead of incentivizing, which would have been a way more prudent policy decision, they could have incentivized research and development of solar technology. Instead, they incentivized deploying first generation solar, which are these flat panels that are super inefficient. And they really only help you when the sun is directly hitting them at like a 90-degree angle. But I'm encouraged by some innovation. I've seen patent pending on what looked like a cone, but it had layered sort of beveled edge glass inside this cone. And so when the sun hit it from any degree, it would capture and then refract internally this incredible energy efficiency in terms of the solar absorption. So that's some futuristic solar. Maybe we'll get that ready for scale. In the meantime, I think wind is probably the way to go, or just a hybrid portfolio where you've got micro turbines and geothermal and solar panels and sort of an array of resilient and redundant energy supply.
So going back to that, with the generator that we currently have on the market, it produces the same amount of energy as 525 300-watt panels, and it takes up 3 foot by 5 foot. So 525 panels typically take up about an acre of space, and we're taking up about 15 cubic feet or 15 square feet, excuse me. And then we're utilizing the wind energy to trickle charge the battery when the generator is not running. And it's not like a generator that's a backup generator. This is one that powers the battery and then it turns off.
Gotcha. That's really exciting stuff, guys. I don't want to go on any longer than we have to. I think we've covered a lot of really good topics here and got out some good information. John, I want to finish with you here. First of all, thank you for providing this to the industry and giving information that wasn't necessarily out there. John, I know you are a litigation attorney for insurance claims. I don't know if you're taking new clients, but for anyone out there, what is an ideal scenario where you would be a best fit for somebody to contact you and get involved with you?
Well, there's a lot of different law firms out there that work in our space, and they all have a niche. So this is not meant to be construed as dissing any other model. Okay. This is just how my firm has evolved and sort of where we've positioned ourselves to play to our strengths. So our forte would be high stakes, large loss litigation. When you've got 7 figures in dispute or more, you know the insurance company is unlikely to pay that unless it's just obvious patent damage and you beat them over the head with your engineering reports and they buy it. Most of the time they'll bow up and they'll find some way to deny the claim and force the insured to take legal action. And when that happens, you have to understand the carrier is already acting under advice of counsel. They're already getting coverage counsel to tell them how to deny this claim. And so it's an arms race. And you're not going to beat them if that claim goes into a mill with thousands of other cases that are just kind of being pushed along. It's not going to be, you're not going to win that case if you don't finance the experts and actually put heavy duty testifying experts on the file. And so that's kind of between the residential play and the mass mill. That's where we are, which is high value claims where you actually need to beat them with discovery, where we're taking depositions, where we have a highly detailed grasp on the file and we can catch them making inconsistent statements or contradicting themselves or essentially refuting them on the record under oath when the cameras are rolling, so that by the end of the deposition they're ready to tap out, or if not there, through motion practice, which is the litigation that we do, winning on coverage, for example. And we've had cases where it's $10 million case. They want to pay zero because they want to argue with the anti-concurrent causation clause because the wave action hit when the wind came. They don't have to pay anything. I mean, these get really technical. It'll make your eyes glaze over. And the insurance company's adjuster had been having an appellate lawyer write all of their reservation of rights letters from day one of the claim being submitted, not just a coverage counsel, not just a defense attorney, but an appeals lawyer who is planning on appealing the case to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals if they lost. And we won motion after motion. And when they threatened to take the appeal, my partner, Bob Green, called opposing counsel and said, we're collecting penalty interest during the pendency of the appeal. And so they settled the case right there. So that's really our forte. When you've got really big claims, and oftentimes because of that, we get involved after a public adjuster has been making a good faith effort to get the claim resolved and they haven't done it. We do work with some restoration contractors directly, but that's under very limited circumstances when they're highly qualified and professional and generally in jurisdictions that don't allow public adjusters. So we're not actually competing with public adjusters for that work.
Very good. Guys, again, thank you, TJ McCormick and John Wood, for being on the show today. We're going to wrap it up. You guys have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next week, Thursday at 3 p.m. All right, bye.